companies have on the ground, the bigger interest that the U.S. has in the future of Ukrainian economy doing well, the more security it creates for the Ukrainian people, and the higher the return for the U.S. taxpayer. Again, President Trump has structured this win-win deal, and it's unfortunate that after my meeting with President Zelensky and then his meeting in Munich with Vice President Vance, Secretary of State Rubio, the idea here of my trip to Ukraine and then the meeting in Munich, we want to intertwine the U.S. and Ukrainian economies for the benefit of both. And unfortunately, President Zelensky seems to have put a bit of daylight between us, but I am sure in the long run, or in the short run, there is no daylight. The deal will be signed, and this will give President Trump a lever, and it will be a strong signal to Russian leadership that the U.S. is in a serious partnership with the Ukrainian people.
President Zelensky is speaking right now, saying today that he was willing to give up his position if it meant peace in Ukraine, quipping that he could exchange his departure for Ukraine's entry into NATO. Zelensky also says he wanted to see Donald Trump as a partner to Ukraine and more than simply a mediator between Kyiv and Moscow. I want it to be more than just mediation. That's not enough, he told a press conference just moments ago. Your reaction? Is this also suggesting that there could be a change in leadership in Ukraine?
Maria, I try to stay in my economics and finance lane. So this is the first that I've heard about it. But at some point, Ukrainian people, it's a democracy, they're going to have an election, and they will democratically elect a leader. President Zelensky has been a wartime president, and we've seen in the history of this, Winston Churchill was a fantastic wartime leader, and then the British people decided to move on after he had done great job during World War II.
Secretary, I know that the Prime Minister of the UK will be at the White House Thursday, and the President is meeting with French President Macron on Monday to discuss their ideas for a resolution to this war. And one of the ideas, according to the Wall Street Journal, is that the U.S. would have a backstop in terms of potential military. Has the President considered this?
Maria, my understanding, and again, I try to stay in the econ and finance lane, but my understanding here is that it will be a European military solution, not a NATO solution, and that we will go from there. So I believe that is why Prime Minister Stammer, the President Macron are in town. And then, I believe what we can do is fortify the existing boundaries of NATO. We could have Fortress Baltics, Fortress Poland, without the U.S. having any involvement on the ground in Ukraine going forward.
Well, this is very exciting, Secretary, what you're working on in terms of this deal in Ukraine. Do you expect a deal to be announced this week in terms of those rare earth minerals and energy?
I'm quite hopeful, Maria. And the other thing I would say here, too, is common to a lot of misperceptions. The Russians hate this deal. That the morning that I arrived in Ukraine, to get into Kyiv, you fly to Poland, you take a 10-hour night train in. The Russians unfortunately bombed Kyiv. There was a missile barrage 4 hours before I got there. It was the first time that such a barrage had taken place since November. So I think that was a strong signal from Russian leadership that they don't like this deal because it gives President Trump more negotiating leverage. So if the Russians don't like it, my view is Ukrainians should.